Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning.
Oh, hi, everybody. Ezra Levant here. How you doing? It's great to be with you. As you know, every day at 12 noon Eastern Time, we sit down for a little live stream. I do it Monday, Wednesday, Friday. My friend Sheila Gunn-Reid, David Menzies do it the other days. Although yesterday we had a surprise treat. Drea Humphrey joining from the West Coast and Andrew Chapados here in Toronto. So we mixed it up a little bit. You can see us on different platforms. Right now, I'm looking at the show on superu.net. For those of you who don't know, that is a Canadian startup. It's a video platform. And let me just tell you their tagline, their motto, it's free speech channel, which is why I love them. And I believe that having a censorship-resistant platform is going to be essential for anyone, left or right, who deviates from the official narrative these days. And that's a very powerful thing. I mean, one of the things we're going to talk about today is how for the last year you weren't allowed to talk about the possible origin of the virus being the Wuhan Institute of Virology. I mean, come on, you've got the virus weaponization headquarters of Communist China specializing in the weaponization of bat viruses in the city where a bat virus goes wild and then infects the world. And you rule that out without a deep investigation just because it's politically incorrect? That's sort of crazy. You can see us on Odyssey. I'm on the Odyssey page right now. I'm not sure if it's streaming live. There we are. Yeah, thank you very much to everyone watching there. Of course, Rumble is another Canadian video solution. And I'm delighted to say we already have nearly 1,000 people watching there. And finally, we are on the censorship platform itself, YouTube, where we have 631 people. And we don't like YouTube very much because they're very censorious. They're the most censorious of the video platforms. But we have over 1.46 million subscribers there. And we're certainly not going to abandon our subscribers, even though YouTube makes it hard for us to stay in touch. I am going to talk about the Fauci emails. But there are a few other things that caught my eye. And I want to tell you about them. First of all, I just want to remind you that we published a new book on Friday. And look at that. That is a hefty book. I mean, some of the books we make here at Rebel News are rather brief. And I don't mind. I'm not shy that. We price them right. I mean, a lot of our books are priced at $9.99 or whatever for a paperback. I think that's pretty cheap, frankly. My books are typically $15. This book, what's this book cost? I think it's $15 also. That's a pretty hefty book. That's a lot of pages. And on each page, I should tell you, there are words. This is a good read. It's called Unsporting, How Trans Activism and Science Denial Are Destroying Sport. It's by Coach Linda Blade with Barbara Kay. And I should tell you, this book went to #1 on Amazon in Canada in its first day, which is very exciting. And I just wanted to tell you that because I'm very proud to be associated with this book and with the authors of it. And I want to tell you, it's a very smart book. It's, it's #1 in different categories like sports and sociology. It did hit #1 on, what are the ratings like? I know that sometimes people go on and they don't read the book, but they give it a negative rating no matter what. It looks like a couple of people giving it 0, even though I'm sure they're not what they call verified buyer. What I like about Amazon's reviews is that you can see some of them that say verified. Yeah, do you see that verified purchase? So that shows you, did someone actually buy this and read this? Because a lot of people, it's like giving a fake negative review on Yelp or whatever. Is Yelp still a thing? To sort of hurt a political enemy. Some haters have gone on to Amazon, and just a couple of them have given negative views without reading it, which tells you a lot, doesn't it? But the book is well loved by people who actually paid for it. Justin points out this person didn't buy it, but says they regret reading it. I want to tell you, they obviously haven't read it if they regret reading it, because there's so much in here I like to think I'm a smarty pants about issues that are new in the news all the time. But if you're just reading the news in a shallow way, you're not going to know anything any more than what the mainstream media itself writes, which is very little. What's interesting about this book is the depth of it. And I forgot that Coach Linda, I think she's actually a PhD. Now, don't worry, it's not a hard book to read. There are a few technical words in there. But it actually just takes you through a lot of studies. And there's some graphics in there. I mean, one of the things, I mean, you probably knew this, but, you know, the fastest man in the world in like the 100-yard dash. Okay, how far down the rankings do you go before you get to the fastest woman? And that's not sexist to say, it's just a question. And it goes to innate differences between men and women. And if you were like, and it goes to the fact that, I mean, I think it's that well-known story of the awesome American women's soccer team, which was beaten by a team of 15-year-old boys. And that's not to say that the American women's soccer team, the national team, is bad. It's just that there's genetic differences, there's biological differences between genetically male and genetically female people. And this, I like the title Unsporting. Yeah. Football Club Dallas under 15 boys squad beat the U.S. women's national team in a scrimmage. I mean, you would say, oh, that's very embarrassing. Well, is it really embarrassing? What if I said to you, you know, the 30th ranked super heavyweight boxer beat the top ranked flyweight boxer? Would you say, oh, that's embarrassing? Or you'd say, well, yeah, they're in different weight categories. And the reason they're in different weight categories is because we want to control those aspects. I walked into the studio yesterday when Andrew Chapados was interviewing. So who was that guy that he was interviewing? That was Zuby? Oh my God, I didn't know that Andrew had Zuby on the line. Holy smokes, I would have, I mean, I'm going to watch the video when it's out, but I just walked in for a moment to the control room. I don't know what I was doing, probably looking for snacks or something. And I just overheard Zuby say, I didn't know that was him. He said, I thought Zuby had a British accent. I guess not. I thought it was a Canadian American that Andrew was talking to. I heard him say something, and I was only in the control room for like about a minute. I was looking for snacks, couldn't find any, so I patted around to different parts of I was just wandering around. And this is what I overheard when I came in, just for that minute. I heard him say, you know, and I wouldn't call for the clip because you probably couldn't find it on demand, but it was, he said, the thing about lifting weights is there's no faking it. There's no wiggle room. There's no affirmative action. There's no, you know, adjustments. The weights are the weights. You know, they are what they are. 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 250 pounds. Either you lift them or you don't. It's not socialist. There's no redistribution. Okay, this guy's stronger than you, so he'll lift some of your weights, and you know, it doesn't work that way. You either lift the weights or you don't lift the weights. And so it's very meritocratic. Obviously, it's race blind. It's purely on ability. And I only heard about a minute, so you're probably saying, Ezra, your explanation of what you heard for a minute is now well into 5 minutes. Well, I'm paraphrasing. He also said it's a solo sport. So it is so you can't even say, well, I lost because of him or I lost because of him. It's all you. It's just you and the weights. It's just you and the iron. And that's, he was making the case. I didn't know that was Zuby. If you can find it, I mean, don't knock yourself out. We can do it another day. But I just thought, boy, I never heard anyone talk about it that way. He said, if you're a weightlifter, you're probably not a socialist, he said. And I thought, I never thought of it that way. He said, because it's such a meritocratic thing, and it's not like a thing where you can fudge or say, well, what about equity? What about my rights? Now, that said, I know there have been very brawny, there have been some socialists in the sweep of time who like to be bodybuilders. But actually, now that I say that, I can only think of one, namely Mussolini. And I don't know if he was actually a bodybuilder or if he was just sort of shaped that way. So I take back my point. I think Zuby's right. Anyway, it was it's just, I only walked in for a minute. Had I known that was Zuby, I would have stayed and watched the whole time. It'll air next Thursday on. That's excellent. Well, congratulations for Andrew for getting that interview. I did not know. Good for him. He's getting some great interviews. That's great. Congratulations to him. Well, we'll have to email that one out, the invitation to watch it. So it goes back to the heading of the book. We have there's a chapter in here about Zuby, actually. A whole chapter on it. But unsporting. Be a good sport. That's unsportsmanlike. What does that mean? Well, there's an implication that sport, there is an underlying fairness to it. There isn't, if you're cheating, if you're rigging the rules, if you're tilting the playing field, then that's not sport anymore. And I think that's why it's such a great title. Because you put a physical, chapter 3 in this book is called Zuby Strikes Gold. Anyways, it's a good book, if I may say so. It's 12:11. Here's what I want to do today. I want to show a video that I just discovered this morning on the internet. And I said, who is this lady? She should contact us. And wouldn't you know it, the team says, Ezra, she already has. So I'll tell you about this incredible woman. I'll show you the video. We're going to go through some of Sheila Gunn-Reid's live tweeting of a major lawsuit that's underway right now in the Federal Court of Canada, in which we are an applicant or a plaintiff, as it might be called in another setting. As you know, or you may not know, anyone who flies into Canada from another country must go to a quarantine hotel. It's mandatory. It's like a jail that way. It costs $1,000 a night. I mean, it depends, but approximately $1,000 a night. It's usually a crappy airport hotel. And it makes no sense because, I mean, for example, when our former reporter, Keean Bexley, did it, he had his car parked at the airport. He could have gone straight from the plane to the car and gone home. How many people would he have come into contact with? 0. Instead, he had to go through some bureaucrat and then go on a shuttle bus and then go to a hotel, go to the lobby, go to his room. Like, he said he came into contact with 14 different people. How does that make any sense? If you got your car, they're going to go straight home and quarantine and home for 2 weeks. How does that make sense? And I learned today that under these goofy rules, if you test positive, you're not allowed to go to the quarantine hotels. You go home. What? So if you're sick, you go home. But if you're healthy, you go to the quarantine hotel. What? A lot of weird things there. I learned that none of these people were given their rights. Were told their rights, including right to a lawyer. Just crazy stuff. Anyways, so we filed a lawsuit, I think it was in January or something, and so the hearing's on right now, this week, yesterday, today, I think it's one more day, maybe 2. And, that seems very slow, but actually in normal litigation, that's pretty speedy. Normally you don't get from lawsuit to trial in 5 months. Which I think is when we filed it. Anyways, our lawyers in Calgary are, so Sheila is live tweeting it. Back in federal court today for the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms and Rebel News challenge of Trudeau's COVID jail program, which incarcerates innocent, healthy people for 72 hours upon return to their own country. It's insane. To support our fight, please go to nocovidjails.com. And that's the thing, we're crowdfunding our lawyers, and as Sheila mentions, the Justice Center too. So I'm just going to read some of Sheila's tweets. This is what some guy from the CBC is yelling at his dog, and we can all hear it because he forgot to mute his microphone in the federal court hearing. Smack my head, yeah. Today court is expected to hear from Jeffrey Rath, lawyer for Dominique Colvin, the CEO of a cannabis company from Kelowna, BC, who's also suing the government over the COVID jail system. So just to be clear, the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, those are our friends there, John Carpe, etc. They're representing a handful of travelers. We are there in our own behalf and representing Keean, who was put through one of these. And then this fella, Dominique Colvin, who is some marijuana tycoon, I guess he was put through the system and he's mad, so he's suing too. So all these, everyone who was suing was bundled together. The lawsuits were joined, and they're being heard all at once. And I think it's the Chief Justice of the Federal Court of Canada. So they really put the top dog on it. So it's being heard by the boss. Hawks, that's our lawyer, Robert Hawks for Rebel News, and Rath, Jeffrey Rath, note the government is and may not accurately be representing the facts in their materials. Rath is seriously concerned, wants an opportunity to make written submissions to deal with misrepresentation of the evidence by the government. Well, I don't know anything about that, but if that's true, it's pretty serious. Rath says a chart the government presented amounts to new written evidence. Okay, I don't know. Rath is now explaining his case. Rath is adopting the Rebel News and Justice Center case as part of his. That makes sense. No point re-arguing what was already argued. Rath is arguing that the government did not make efforts to create minimally invasive policies to deal with quarantine jails. The government presented no evidence that they considered alternatives and rejected the alternatives based on that consideration. Now that's an important point because the government under our Constitution has to protect your freedoms. They may infringe them, but only what's called minimal impairment. If there's a very pressing and substantial concern, and let's say the pandemic is that, your rights can be violated, but only in the most minimal way possible, in a way that's rationally connected to the outcome. So what Rath is saying is the government didn't even consider other alternatives. Rath describes the quarantine as airport incarceration measures. Yeah, well, that's what they are. That's not even controversial. Challenging the forced detention upon arrival in a COVID jail, as well as the forced 14-day quarantine of people who have not one but two clean COVID tests. Yeah, what's the point in taking the COVID test if you're going to be quarantined anyways? Like, how does that make sense? Rath is rightfully pointing out the asymptomatic actually means healthy. Yeah, if you don't, yeah, is there any asymptomatic transmission of this disease? The Quarantine Act requires the government to adopt the most minimally invasive measures. Quote, scheme under the order in council where people who are healthy and who have a screening test that says you're not sick, and they're being told to go to a room and stay in it until we decide you can go. What is that even? And then, so I'm just quoting, so Sheila's quoting Rath, who's up today. Our lawyers were up yesterday. Rath says, people who are sick or symptomatic at the airport don't have to be tested at the airport and can go home without being tested if they report their symptoms. So I don't get it. I never thought that through. So if you were actually sick, you can go home. But if you're actually healthy, you can't go home. What on actual earth is that? Rath, why is it that sick people at the airport can be sent home, but people with a clear COVID test are sent to their room in some instances without supper? Yeah, that's true. Rath, there's a complete dearth of evidence that these measures were considered by Cabinet in accordance with their responsibilities under quarantine. Oh, do you think for a second Cabinet actually considered this? Come on. Chief Justice Crumpton is asking Rath about the time it takes for infected people to manifest symptoms or begin to test positive. Rath, the quarantine measures don't line up with the expert advice the government allowed into evidence. 2 clear COVID tests and the 7-day quarantine would probably do. Rath is now questioning the validity of the PCR test as a tool of incarceration for Canadians. This is very interesting. I've read a lot of controversy with the PCR test. Is it enough to send someone into a 3-day jail? Rath, it's very troubling. So again, if you're wondering, Ezra, what are you doing? I'm reading Sheila Gunn Reid's live tweets from the Federal Court of Canada today, where Rebel News and others are challenging these airport COVID jails. We are literally in court with 2 Top Gun lawyers. This Rath is another lawyer representing another guy who's suing at the same time. Rath, it's very troubling to me that when we ask a witness if they think cycles of amplification for the PCR test lead to false positives, and the witness says no. Rath describes the PCR testing as akin to a magnifying glass on a photocopy. Well, we know that PCR tests have a lot of false positives. PCR tests can't determine between live virus and fragments of virus that people have survived that are no longer capable of infecting anyone. The argument is that this test should not be used to justify the airport incarceration of innocent people. Raf, the airport incarceration program only applies to you if you're not sick. If you are sick, they don't want you in the COVID jail. They send you home immediately or to a designated quarantine facility. They're essentially in solitary confinement and can't go inside. And that's the crazy thing, is that's how they're treating the healthy people. Rath is talking about his cross-examination of the head of biosecurity for the entire country of Canada, Kimby Barton, though he points out her science degrees are in zoology. Barton could not explain why it was safe to send people to COVID hotels, but not home. Rath describes the COVID jail program as silly and illogical. Now discussing the sheer volume of people who are just taking the fines to skip the COVID hotels and heading home where it's safe, because almost everybody intuitively knows how stupid this thing is. Rath says the government used cabinet confidentiality to shield themselves from criticism and examination by the court. Yeah, now, if the government wants to say, oh, that's a secret, that's a secret, that's a secret, I suppose that's their right. But then they haven't proved to the court that they're minimally impairing things. Like, if you want to have all your secrets, don't expect a judge to give you the benefit of the doubt when you're infringing liberties. I think there was a couple more tweets there. Rath says there is no evidence of asymptomatic transmission of COVID within Canada. Rath examined the head of the biosecurity program in Canada about evidence of asymptomatic spread of COVID within Canada. She could not tell him of any. Sheila says makes sense since asymptomatic basically means healthy. Rath says the government has incarcerated Canadians for a risk that doesn't exist. Just a reminder, Rath is a lawyer for the cannabis guy. Rath notes that COVID mortality rates are dropping, but the government wants us to continue to be excessively concerned about variants of concern. And then Sheila just reminds us what she's doing. She's live tweeting. All right, thank you for going through that. So, very exciting. Our lawyers, I think the JCCF lawyers were up first. Saya Hassan, who I've met before, a very lovely young lady. And then our lawyers yesterday, Sarah Miller and Robert Hawkes, sharp as a tack. Today's Jeffrey Rath. Now, I don't know how long he'll be going on, but then the government will push back, and we'll see how they go. I wonder. They got a lot of plaintiffs' lawyers there ready to push back at him if they try any fancy pants moves. I'm excited. I wish I had the time just to watch the whole thing. I got to do a few things. So you can follow Sheila Gunn Reid if you're very interested in this case. I'm excited. I'm excited that we're in there. And if you want to help us crowdfund our lawyers, please do. Go to nocovidjails.com. I won't tell you how big the bills are, but they are not petite. Speaking of ridiculous lockdowns, let me show you a doctor. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right. Dr. Kwando Karamanting. I apologize if I got his name wrong. He makes the point, if this is the video, I think it is. We're opening up NHL for millionaires. We're opening up some businesses. We're opening this and that. But we're not opening the schools for kids. Kids who we should care about the most, and kids who luckily are the least ravaged by the pandemic. We're not opening the schools for them. So here's his video. Take a look.
Yeah, I just had a quick thing to say about our approach right now in Ontario with the schools not reopening. I just want us all to think, like, are we okay with who we are? Like, this is what we're screaming out to the world of who we are, where our values are, but what's important to us. And right now we're saying we're not going to prioritize the kids. And that's what it means to be in Ontario right now. You live in Timmins, you live in small town, rural Ontario, you live in Ottawa. Right now it's okay that we're not going to address the needs of our kids, mental health, physical health, overall well-being, and their education. That's who we are right now. And I think the reason, personally, I've had such a tough time with this is right now, frontline staff, we're all doing our part to contribute. But one of the things that makes it so important, that gives us that hustle, is we're doing it for the people. We're doing it for the values of being in Ontario and doing our part to contribute. And this feels gross. All that hustle, you know, all of us, I could to speak for how many intensivists this month have been working 4 out of 5 weeks, 5 out of 6 weeks. And all that hustle that we're doing, and this is what's coming out of it. This is the return. This is what we're expressing to the world, that who we are is people that do not stick up for the people that need us the most right now. Those that are suffering, those kids. We're just going to be like, you know what? That's okay. And that doesn't sit well with me. And it's an injustice. It's, you know, I honestly could say I am this. How can you be proud to be an Ontarian right now?
You know, I like that guy. He seems like a doctor who actually cares about patients. I think most of the time, you know what drives me crazy? And I think occasionally we let this verbiage slip onto our website too. Canada's top doctor, Ontario's top doctor. That's what they call these public health doctors. They're not the top doctor. When was the last time Theresa Tam had a patient? Did she ever? 20 years ago? Canada's top doctor says we have to keep the schools locked down. Canada's top doctor is not a top doctor by any normal measure. Not the best doctor, not the best marks, not the most innovative, not the best patient relations. It's just not. Canada's bureaucrat with an MD. So here's a real doctor. What do you got there? Oh, the phrase, yeah, top doctor. That's how many hits when you type in doctor? Oh, just 25 million. Canada's top doctor, top doctor, top doctor. Yeah, no, you ain't the top doctor. You are a bureaucrat with an MD. So it was nice to hear from an actual doctor who had actual patients. You know, I think we showed the video of Avi the other day, right? Fighting back against the cops. I think it was 9 minutes or something. Now, Avi Yamini is quite something. I mean, he's 1 in a million. And he's got courage, he's physically tough, it's not his first rodeo, as they say. Plus, he has the knowledge that he's got us, we got his back, even though we're halfway across the world. So when Avi confronted the police in Melbourne and they told him, you're not accredited by us, and he said, I don't need to be accredited by police, and he made them check and they were wrong. I really recommend that video if you didn't see it before. I mean, it was incredible courage, but of all the people in the world to show it, you would expect Avi Yamini to show that courage. But he's in that business. He's in the challenging people business, challenging authority. He's in the journalism when the establishment doesn't want you to do journalism, you know. Like there's some journalism that's not even, like, a soft focus feature story. There's some journalism on there, like a human interest story that everyone likes, really brings us all together. Oh, there's a puppy skateboarding. Oh, did you see that? There's a frog on a paper boat. Ha ha ha. You know, there's a lot of fun stories like that. I mean, I guess you could call that journalism because not everything has to be political. But Avi's in the hardest journalism, the journalism that the authorities don't want to happen. He's a dissident journalist in a good way. So he's built for fighting, but what if you are not built for fighting? What if you're just a normal Canadian and you just want to live your life and just want to make a living and just want to move on, and you know things are BS, and then the cops come to your place and they literally come in without a search warrant and they will not leave? What do? Do you have the courage to stand up to them? You've never done it before. You don't know what they can do to you. What if they arrest you? What if they put you in jail? What if they fine you? What if they physically are violent to you? These are all questions. Avi's thought them through because he's dealt with all of them before. What if you are a mum? What if you are a severely normal mum and some cops come with a bunch of threats to you? Are you ready to push back? No offense, but I bet most people, the answer, if they're being very, very honest, is no. Because we're not built for conflict, right? We're conflict averse. Well, let me show you one mom who showed the way, and holy moly, ready? Take a look at this video.
No, okay, so you have to close my door, get off my property. You have no right to enter.
This is no place of business.
No, you have no right to enter. Nope. Here, get your phone. I have it. You have no right to enter in here. Get out.
You have several people.
It doesn't matter.
Place of business.
It doesn't matter. I said to remove yourself from the property. You had no right to open my doors. Get off of my property. You are not supposed to open my door. Get off of my property now.
It's private property.
Get off of my property now.
And you're not abiding
Get
by
off of my property now.
Samantha, you're still
Get off of my property now.
contravention of order.
Get
Section Order 22.
off of my property
You
now.
are to close.
Get off.
You are.
You get off. Get off. Let go of my door. Move. Move.
Listen to what you're saying.
Move.
Listen
I
to what
command
you're
you to move off my property now. Get up. Move. Get off. Move. Move. Let go of my property. Get off my property. Get off my property.
If you approach him like that, you will be arrested.
Get off my property.
Your aggressive
You
behavior
don't
is
ever
not
come back
appreciated.
here.
You know what?
You're not welcome
I don't
here. Get
understand.
off. And don't you ever open my door again.
I'm off your.
Sierra, come here. I want her number now. You guys go back in. I want her. What's your badge number? What's your
Badge
name?
227 Constable.
What is your name?
Constable Beaulieu.
Don't you ever open my door again.
It's a place of business.
No, it's not.
a
It is
residence.
not a walk-in.
It's not a
You
residence.
do not walk in my doors.
You are open to
You do
business.
not walk in my doors. You do not walk in my doors ever again.
You
You hear me?
are to
You
close,
do.
Samantha.
You do.
You are to close.
Get off my property.
Stop assaulting me.
No,
I
I'm
don't want
assaulting
that.
nobody.
Yes, you are.
I'm not assaulting nobody. I'm done.
Your behavior
I'm done.
is very aggressive.
I don't care.
She's tired.
I'm sick and tired. This is my fucking daughter. How dare you come to my place of business that I have to feed my children? I'm so fucking done. I can fucking. You don't even know what I can do to you right now. Get up. No.
I know.
Get up. I'm tired. Get up. Now. You too.
You need?
Get off
Mom.
my property. Get off.
Mom.
Hold on. You hold on. You stay away from us. Hold on.
From us.
How do you feel upon watching that video? How do you feel about that? I'll tell you how I feel. Just going to go from head to toe. I feel sympathy for her. I feel like I want to help her. I feel like she is frustrated and has just had it. I feel like the harms being done to her, the threats being done to her by those two authorities, one a cop with a gun and the other some guy with some name tag. I feel like they're just their passive way of speaking, the banality of their personality belies their evil. The banality of evil is a phrase that refers to people doing awful things. Just by the way, I'm just a bureaucrat. I think the two parts that got me the most infuriated was when that man said, "Stop assaulting me." Did you hear that? The guy said, "Stop assaulting me." You were coming into her place. The cops got the gun. "Stop assaulting me." She didn't touch you, you maniac, you wicked liar. And the cop with the gun, "You are being very aggressive." Now, it is true that mom used, I think I heard a swear word spoken a couple of times. Gee, I hope that doesn't melt the lady cop. She heard the F word. I hope she's okay. Yeah, which is more being very aggressive? A mom using the F word, or a cop with a gun coming into a building with no search warrants and refusing to leave despite being asked 5 times? On Monday's show, we really went through, was that when we went through the Trespass to Property Act? We did that on Monday, right? Because it was our friend Efrain Oswaldo Flores Monsanto, our head of video, who was at a mall in Hamilton and some security guards said, "Get out." And the law of trespass says that if you're on someone's property and they tell you to leave for any reason or no reason, you do have to leave immediately. And Efron did. This cop, did she leave immediately? No, she did not. I want to let you know something. Cops have to follow the law. I don't know if you know that. In fact, they have to follow the law more than anyone else, because otherwise it would bring the administration of justice into disrepute. If you saw a cop speeding who wasn't in a chase, if you saw a cop shoplifting, if you saw a cop parking in a handicap stall, it would reduce your respect for the administration of justice. So cops have to be compliant with the law if you saw cops just doing bad stuff. So here's a cop who, when asked to leave, when told she's trespassing and is not welcome, cops can come on a property if they have a search warrant, if the search warrant is valid. But they can't just walk in. I just want to let you know, folks, if a cop walks into your property, whether it's your home or your business, you can ask them to leave. I don't want you to think that you can't. Now, if they have a search warrant or if they have some other justification, you should take a look at it. But these two thugs, and the thing is, they were banal thugs. They were calm, quiet, but they were just as thuggish. In fact, that's what made it even more infuriating. So anyways, I posted that video, and can you show my tweet? So actually an ex-cop sent me that video today, so I posted that video, and I had only seen that today. So I was angry, I was sad, I felt like I wanted to help that woman, I was furious at the cops, I noted that their double standard. So I said, not sure where this was filmed, what a disgrace the police have become. I'm deeply impressed by the courage of the mum. If anyone knows her, have her email me at ezra@rebelnews.com or go to fightthefines.com and we'll give her free legal help. And we've had a few people read that and retweet it, but then I couldn't believe it, so I tweet that. And then, update, I just learned this brave mum already reached out to us, as in like a couple days ago. We're giving her a lawyer, and David Menzies is already doing a story about her. We're representing 1,000+ people just like her. If you can help us out, crowdfund the legals, go to fightthefines.com. But, I saw that woman and I thought, well, I can sort of tell that's Canadian. Like I can tell that's not British or Australian. I can sort of tell it wasn't American. I just didn't know where that was. I couldn't place it by the accent or the uniform, but wouldn't you know it? Wouldn't you know it? We're already representing that lady. And I just wanted to tell you where that's from, because I sent a note around, and then a whole bunch of folks on our team told me where she is. Yeah, her name is Samantha. We're already on the case. She's got sort of like a health salon or something, a wellness center. I'm not going to get into the case. I'll let the story be properly told. Oh, we have a Dropbox video with rough video for reference. Anyways, I'm just going through some of the notes that after I tweeted that, the whole team said, Ez, we're on it. You're the last to know. Which is true. I don't know all the cases we got. How am I supposed to keep up? I mean, I can barely keep up with my own stuff. We got so much stuff going on. We got reporters all over the place. Now, I don't know if there's anything, I just sent you the link there, Justin. I don't know if there's anything in that Dropbox link that's worth showing, or if we should just cool it. That looks like a producer's cut there. I'll leave it to you as to whether or not we want to show any of that, or if we should just wait and let that cake be baked before we take it out of the oven. But I'm pleased to say that woman will be helped. She will not be forced to face those cops alone. We will help that woman. We will provide her with excellent legal advice and help, and we will fight whatever. I don't know if she got a ticket or if they're just harassing her. So I actually don't have that information yet. Okay, so that looks like her. Yeah, high vibrations, follow your dream. So yeah, that looks like, I think that's a yoga symbol of some sort. This is sort of follow your soul, one love. All right, so David is obviously on the file and has been talking with her at her location. And I'm not gonna let the cat out of the bag. I don't know what they're saying here. I'm just very pleased that David's on top of it. Look how sharp David's looking there, eh? That's a nice spring look, isn't that? Look at that tie. That's a safety tie. You put that tie on, and it's like a high-vis vest, right? Yeah, that's it. I mean, Justin's joking because David. Oh, there he looks like. So it looks, it looks like a small town. And again, I'm not letting the cat out of the bag here. We'll let the story speak for itself. But it looks like David really went down there and did some grassroots journalism, which I like. We had some visitors at the office yesterday. I showed him around. I showed him the green screen room I'm in here, and I said, really, I'm the main guy who uses the green screen because all our people are in the field. Our people are out there where the stories are. I mean, David sits in this chair when he does his Rebel Roundup, which is sort of like a review of our exciting stories at the end of every week. But it's just me here in the studio. Everyone else is where the news is. Okay, I've got one more story about Joe Biden, and then I'm going to talk about Anthony Fauci. And let's just play the video. I was going to do some sort of preamble, but let's just play the video.
The data shows young black entrepreneurs are just as capable of succeeding given the chance as white entrepreneurs are. But they don't have lawyers, they don't have accountants, but they have great ideas. Does anyone doubt this whole nation would be better off from the investments those people make? And I promise you, that's why I set up this National Small Business Administration that's much broader, because they're going to get those loans.
Is it true that black people don't have lawyers and accountants? I happen to know some black lawyers and accountants. In fact, we work with some. I don't know, that maybe what he means to say is that black Americans have less access to capital and less ability to hire those things, but he just keeps saying things, and I know if it were Trump who said them, it would be called racist. And I think the media is letting Biden say goofy things, he's just a grandpa, or, oh, he didn't really mean it, or he was having another Biden moment. I mean, that's not a devastating thing right there. I think what he meant was, actually, I don't know what he meant. There's something condescending about saying black entrepreneurs have just as good ideas as white entrepreneurs. That's gotten, like if you were to say black entrepreneurs have less access to capital than white entrepreneurs, I would hear you out. But that was the second thing he said. The first thing he said was, hey guys, blacks have just as many ideas as whites. I don't think anyone was contesting that, and I don't think that was really a revelation. He really feels like he's from a different time, like he's from the 50s, and which he is. I mean, he's been in Washington for half a century. I don't know, I think it just shows, I don't think that's a particularly telling clip, but I think it's the fact that it's so commonplace. He was giving some remarks denouncing the Ku Klux Klan. The Ku Klux Klan was an explicitly Democrat organization. There was not a single Republican in the Klan. And I know this because Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. He came in, crushed the South. To this day, there's debates over whether he was too brutal. The sports team, the Calgary Flames. Do you know where they're from originally, Justin? They're from Atlanta. They were a team down there called the Atlanta Flames. You know what Flames they're talking about? Well, Flames. Like the Edmonton Oilers, okay, oil. That's in Edmonton. The Flames they're talking about in Atlanta is when Lincoln's soldiers marched through Atlanta in the Civil War. They burnt everything. They burnt it all down. Did you know that? Did you know that to this day the Calgary Flames hockey team is named after what some people might call a war crime? Just burn the whole city to a crisp. So Lincoln did that. He was a Republican. He emancipated the slaves. He subdued the South and stopped it from seceding. The Ku Klux Klan was one reaction. It was a racist reaction. It was an explicitly anti-black, and there were other elements to it, anti-Jewish, anti-Catholic organization. It was a political organization too, though. It wasn't just, we don't like blacks. It was, let's organize and fight back against these Yankee interlopers. And well, I know it was Sherman who was the soldier. Lincoln was the president. Lincoln wasn't down there lighting the matches. It was his generals. I know that. Yeah, Lincoln wasn't a soldier. Lincoln was the president. I'm being fact-checked here. Yeah, I know that Lincoln himself was not down there in Atlanta. Where was I? You know who the longest-serving senator in West Virginia was? Robert Byrd. Can you Google Robert Byrd? I want to go to his Wikipedia page. You can't trust Wikipedia because it's edited by anyone. But I bet the Wikipedia page for Robert Byrd is pretty good. So Robert Byrd, served as a senator from West Virginia for 51 years, 1959 to 2010. Member of the Democratic Party, blah, blah, blah. Scroll down. Political career, spanned more than, he first entered the political arena by organizing and leading a local chapter of the Ku Klux Klan in the 1940s. An action he later described as the greatest mistake I ever made. Scroll down. I want to read about his Klan work, because it was his Klan work that got him into the Democrats. And click on Ku Klux Klan, go up, just click on that link there, right. Get this. In the early 1940s, Byrd recruited 150 of his friends and associates to create a new chapter of the Ku Klux Klan in Sophia, West Virginia. As a young boy, Byrd had witnessed his adoptive father walk in a Klan parade. While growing up, Byrd had heard that the Klan defended the American way of life against race mixers and communists. He then wrote to Joel Baskin, Grand Dragon of the realm of Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware, who responded that he would come and organize a chapter when Byrd had recruited 150 people. It was Baskin who told Byrd, "You have a talent for leadership, Bob. The country needs young men like you in the leadership of the nation." Byrd later recalled, "Suddenly lights flashed in my mind. Someone important had recognized my abilities. I was only 23 or 24 years old, and the thought of a political career never really hit me. But strike me that night it did." Byrd became a recruiter and leader of the chapter. When it came time to elect a top officer, the exalted Cyclops in the local Klan unit, Byrd won unanimously. In 1944, Byrd wrote to segregationist Mississippi Senator Theodore Bilbo, and get this is Robert Byrd. "I shall never fight in the armed forces with a Negro by my side. Rather I should die 1,000 times and see Old Glory trampled in the dirt, never to rise again, than to see this beloved land of ours become degraded by race mongrels, a throwback to the blackest specimen from the wilds." Just pure racism. In 1946, Byrd wrote a letter to Samuel Greene, stating, "The Klan is needed today as never before, and I'm anxious to see its rebirth here in West Virginia and every state of the nation." And he started to run as a Democrat, because the Republicans were the ones who emancipated the slaves. The Democrats and the Klan were the same thing. There's a video, here they say, he said it was the worst thing. No, it wasn't. And I say that because there's a video of him, and I don't know if I want to show it. A very recent video, not from the 1940s, from the 2000s, of him using the N-word on TV. Have you seen that video? It is shocking. I don't even know if I want to show that on YouTube. I mean, it's on YouTube. Can you find it? Can you search in YouTube? Yeah, that's the one. Now I'm going to play this bad word. I've never used this word in my life. It's a terrible word. I know that black people have a license to use this word, just like every race has a license to poke at themselves. This use of this word, the N-word, by Robert Byrd, not in the 40s, not in the 50s, not in the 60s, not in the 70s, not in the 80s, not in the 90s, but in the 2000s, when he was the absolute most senior Democrat in Congress, is shocking. And his juxtaposition of white and then the N-word. It's the most incredible. It should be the only thing. If you only knew one thing about Robert Byrd, it should be this. Do you have that video clip? Okay, so let me just put a little warning here. It's a shocking video. It's awful. But I want to show you the nature of the Democrats and show you the nature of the Klan, and they were one and the same. Go ahead, take a look.
Race relations.
They're much, much better than they've ever been in my lifetime. I think we, this is my personal opinion, I think we talk about race too much. I think those problems are largely behind us. I think we can all profit by our mistakes. I think we've reached a new plateau, and I think it's going to keep going upward, that understanding and race relations. But I think I just think we talk so much about it that we helped, I think, create somewhat of an illusion. I think we try to have goodwill. My old mom told me, Robert, you can't go to heaven if you hate anybody. We practice that. There are white niggers. I've seen a lot of white niggers in my time. I'm going to use that word. But
what the actual hell? What the actual hell? Let me tell you what it is to say that. So he's using the N-word in its purely disparaging form. And to say there's a lot of white N-word means he still believes in the N-word, uses the N-word, and uses the N-word as a weapon, and he thinks, well, if I say white people have that awful characteristic, then I'm balancing it out. See, I don't just call black people that. Who does that? What was the date of that interview? What was it? So that was, did you say the YouTube video was 2009? So he had been in the Congress for 50 years. He would die the next year. This is the Democrat Party. And Joe Biden was his 2001. Okay, thanks. Still, he had been so this was after Bill Clinton. Hillary Clinton and him were friends. Joe Biden and him were good friends. They were allies in the Senate. Unbelievable. So when Joe Biden has this natural antipathy and talking down to black people, saying, you just see, that is the Democrats for you. That is the Democrats. And if you didn't know that, why wasn't he canceled? Why wasn't he canceled like that? Have you ever heard such a shocking thing from the most senior senator? Have you ever heard anything like that before? And look at the casualness. The casualness which he drops it, it's like, oh, can you pass the salt? And he said it again. I cut it off after that. I can't remember if he said it a third time. Have you ever seen anything like that before? Imagine if that were a Republican. That it would be over. Before he walked back to his office, he would be fired from every committee. Half of his local district would resign. It would be front page on all the news. How did that not become the only thing everyone and anyone knew about Robert Byrd that minute? How? Well, I'll tell you how. Same reason, same way that Ralph Northam, governor of Virginia, is it? Can you type in Northam, Northam? He dressed up in blackface. He dressed up in a Klan uniform. They were squawking for about 5 minutes, and he's still the governor. Was it Ralph or Robert? I forget his first name. Ralph Northam. Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, credibly accused of sexually assaulting, what is it now, 12 women? So much for the Me Too. Yeah, so that's Ralph Northam. That's Ralph Northam. So for about a week, the media said, oh, that's not good. But he just toughed it out. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And can you give me Andrew Cuomo, Me Too? Just type in those two words. Like the New York Times has actually done some work on this. Some other New York papers. Credibly accused of sexual assault against people of all ages and backgrounds repeatedly, using the office of his, why Cuomo's Me Too moment hasn't brought him down. Yeah, what's this from the New York Times? Yeah, woman after woman after woman, and credible, plausible, like these are not fakers, these are not people trying to get a payday. In some cases, they're very successful political women in their own right. Yeah, scroll down, is there anything more? Or is it just all words? Are there more images? Yeah, like he would go, click on that one, I think that's a video there. Like, what are you doing going up to he was so brazen about it. He would just go up to a young woman, put his hands around her face and dominate her physically. Trudeau does that move too. Scroll down, are there more images too? There's so many women. Like you might say, okay, well, one accusation is disgruntled. Like, is there a dozen? Is there a dozen cases? Well, it's the same reason that Robert Byrd served in the Senate till he died. Absolutely impervious, because do you really think the Democrats are anti-racist? Do you really think that? Do you really think that? They're the party of the Klan, they're the party of the South, and I love the South. I think I love the South more than I love the North. But they were the party against the emancipation. Do you really think the party that fought against emancipation, do you really think the party of the Ku Klux Klan really wants blacks to succeed? No, some do, of course. I think, by the way, that the South, in many ways, has better race relations than the North. I don't want to opine too deeply on the matter because I don't have the experience of the connection. But I think that there was a natural harmony in the South, a modus vivendi, whereas in the North, I think a lot of the political correctness emanates from the Ivy League schools, and it's sort of a very scientific wokeism. I don't know. I won't go too deeply in my own thoughts on race in the South because I don't have enough personal experience there to really know it in my bones. But I don't think you need to be from the North or from the South or from Canada or right wing or left wing to look at that clip from Robert Byrd to know that he got his start in Democrat politics by organizing a local Klan chapter, to know that he wrote a letter saying he would rather die than serve next to a black soldier. And then 50 years later, for him to drop the N-word again and again in a video in a bizarre, weaponized way. Yeah, the Democrats are totally cool with racism. Just shocking. Were you shocked by that? Have you ever seen that before? Were you shocked? Like did you, I mean, he's been dead a decade. Did you know him? Did you? Very senior, very senior. Oh my God, it's 1 p.m. and we didn't get to the Fauci emails. You know what, my friends? We're going to get to the Fauci emails on my show tonight. I apologize. I went through so many other things. At 8 p.m. tonight, I'm going to go through the Fauci emails. I'm sorry I didn't do that today. Let's just quickly go through some of the chats. Super U, Rangehound 101. Super U is now my go-to Rebel watch forum. Thank you for that. And let's make sure that we make that our go-to live stream platform too, and that we're posting all the videos there every day. Hyperchat, 5 libraries, 4 sinker, 3 hearts, thank you. Another hyperchat from Susan Grant. Curious if you will discuss the federal members voting for no election during a pandemic. I will come back to that. Thank you. There's so much to cover. We got to cover that. It's crazy. Hyperchat from Rainmaker. Foreign diplomats, their staff and flight crew don't have to follow the rules. I know this as my girl works for a foreign governor. There are some exceptions. Like it would make no sense for a flight attendant to have to quarantine every time when she came back to Canada. That would make no sense. Listen, a lot of these quarantines don't make any sense anyways. Historically, quarantines were for the sick, not the healthy. There are some thoughtful, sensible exemptions, but why are you sending healthy people to a hotel jail and sick people straight home? I don't even get that. Super U, Republic, I came back on the 25th from Taiwan and they wouldn't let me get on the plane unless I paid the hotel. Oh, these hotels are making out like crazy. Chris's Kingdom, no government has provided justification for any of its actions. Well, because parliaments have really been pared back and opposition parties are muted. Noble Canadian, the public watch these court proceedings online, i.e. the one Sheila is reporting on. It depends on the court. Some of you have to register. Some are very easily accessible. The one rule, and this is why you have to register with some of them, is in Canada you're not allowed to record or take pictures or videos of a court proceeding. So to get in, it's not like just clicking a link. Like a lot of American courts are just on TV. In Canada, you usually have to, if you're not a lawyer or a party, you usually have to like sign something saying, I'm not going to record this. But yes, it is possible for any open court to be attended by any Canadian. You just aren't allowed to record it. Rumble, Mechanic 1908, that video of the poor woman makes me very angry. Me too. I was so angry. I was angry for her. I was angry at those cops. And I was sympathetic towards her and I wanted to help her. And wouldn't you know it, David Menzies had already met her. Wasn't that incredible? Like I had not seen that case before. That little clip we showed you, that has not been aired yet. So literally our team was working on that story and I didn't even know it. Super U, Freedom 1969, people are being pushed to their limits. Oh, that woman for sure. Rumble, Share 21, that's what happens when you mess with a mother bear. That's what I thought. I thought mother bear like a grizzly bear. Yeah, she had it. Super U Mog, that is a woman of courage and conviction. That poor man's such a coward. Isn't that the truth, eh? And him saying, stop insulting me. Oh my God. Binga, critical race theory, the most racist ideology ever. Yeah, now of course that is seeping in the South as well. But I think that critical race theory is almost, I mean, I guess you could say racism and racial disconnect. It can be naturally occurring or it can be made in a lab. And I think the worst of the antagonisms amongst society are those that are confected in a lab. By that I mean academia, think tanks, political activists who say we're going to pit each other against each other in the name of dividing up the electoral map. You know what, I have to say, until Robert Byrd dropped the N-bomb there, I was sort of warming to what he said. Were you, Justin? Like when he said, listen, we can get past it, we can learn from our problems, if we learn from our mistakes. Like I actually sort of liked what he was saying, and I was thinking, oh, maybe he's over his racism. And then he just drops the N-bomb twice. I mean, what you just said, you regret it, you just said that's long in your past. You just said we can all learn from our mistakes. Like if he had Tourette's syndrome, Okay, you know what Tourette's syndrome is? It's a psychological thing. You say literally whatever pops in your mind, even if it's not what you believe. I knew a guy who had Tourette's. It was quite something, and you just had to learn to deal with it, and he sort of covered it up with like a physical mannerism. It's a hell of a thing. And you gotta realize that they're gonna say whatever pops in their mind, they don't mean it. You gotta understand that about a guy with Tourette's. That's what that was like. He was giving this beautiful speech about racial reconciliation, and then he just couldn't stop it. It's like, maybe like he's a cuckoo clock on the hour. He just has to say, N-word, N-word. It's 2 o'clock, N-word, N-word. It's 3 o'clock, N-word, N-word, N-word. He just got Tourette's. And now I'm delighted. I'm Senator Robert Byrd. I'm delighted to be your guest of honor at the Martin Luther King Day speech for racial harmony and reconciliation. And I've learned a lot since I started a Klan chapter 60 years ago, and I want to let you know that's not who I am. The clock's about to strike 2. Get him off the stage. Get him off the stage. And I would like to say, as your senator, I've really grown as a person, and I've profited by my visit. Dong, N-word, dong, N-word. How did that happen? Just so casually. Like he must say that word like he uses salt and pepper. Just N-word, N-word. Oh my God. Yeah, that's for 50 years, the king of the Democrats. We're out of time. Join my show tonight at 8 p.m. for the Fauci emails. And let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll see you later, everybody. Do we have a dog video today? Indeed we do. Okay, I'll see you later. Here's a dog video.